Welcome to episode 28 of the Musicians Talk Show. My name is Dallas DeWhite. Today's podcast is brought to you by Bandzoogle. Bandzoogle makes it easy to build a stunning website for your music in minutes. Choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and customize your design and content in just a few clicks with their super easy visual editor. All the features you need for a professional website are already built right in, including tools to sell your music and merch, commission-free, best part, right on your website. Mailing list tools to grow your fan list, super important. Integrations to pull in content from all your online services, all your social medias, things like that. Live support from their musician-friendly team 7 days a week. They have a really great support team that's helped us with a ton of stuff really fast. Bandzoogle plans start at just $8.29 a month and include your own free custom domain name in that price. Having all of your online presence like that in one place for one low fee is rare. So that's why we love Bandzoogle, and that's why we use Bandzoogle. Go to bandzoogle.com to try it free for 30 days. Be sure to use the promo code TMTS to get 15% off your first year of subscription. That's promo code TMTS for 15% off your first year. All right. So today we have Ade and Mike from the Hawthornes on the show. The Hawthornes are an amazing local band. They also rehearse in the Playroom where we rehearse. That's how Matt originally got in contact with them. And we talk about their new album, self-titled. We go in depth. It's the album review this week, so we're in depth. I mean, we're talking basically a track-by-track review. We're talking about songwriting, inspiration, process, production, all that stuff for this album, and you guys should definitely check it out. And we tacked on a song called Dances in the Rain at the very end. Whole track for you guys to check out as our outro, so make sure you stick around for that at the end. I'm going to stop babbling. Let's head over to the Playroom and talk to Ade and Mike.
Today we have our friends Mike and Ade from the band The Hawthornes, and I'm really excited to talk about their album today and just talk with them about music in general.
It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, we got some cool subjects, so we're going to...
Say hey, guys.
Yeah, introduce yourselves, please.
What's going on? What's happening? I'm Ade, singer and keyboard player.
And I am Mike Prescott. I am the lead and only guitar player in the Hawthornes.
And I see Matt labeled you on our note as Kemper Advocate, which I love and I think is funny.
Kemper Advocate.
Yeah, because we definitely have that in common. When I walked by Mike's room the first time, I heard them practicing outside their room, and I walked by and I was like, I was shocked when I saw that he was using a Kemper too, because I just listened to their practice and it sounded great, and I was like, oh, he's a Kemper guy. That's awesome. And then, of course, Ade's beautiful voice coming in over everything. I love it. So,
hey.
And I was like, this band has got something, man. So I talked to him
I'm
afterward.
definitely insulted that you were surprised it sounded great through a Kemper.
Oh, well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I was surprised.
The way you said that. I walked by the room and I was like, oh, shit, they're actually good.
Intrigued. I'll say, no. You put my words in my mouth. All right,
I'm just messing with you.
What I meant was that I was intrigued that I saw the Kemper on the floor. And I was like, I like the Kemper. Me and Dallas have talked about it. I've recorded
extensively
the Kemper,
on this show.
So when I saw that he was playing through Kemper and they sounded great, and I was like,
So when you guys practice, you're running the Kemper. Are you guys like have live PA? Are you in-ears?
Yeah, so the way that I set up the Kemper for our rehearsals is similar to the way that we do it when we play live.
Mm-hmm.
I have a monitor, a full-range monitor that I use.
Okay, cool.
And it's different, but I like it, right? So I come from the old school of having these speakers behind me, and I still love that. But this allows me to actually hear myself a little bit better without killing a sound guy and without killing the guys in the band.
Right. Well, you can hear it. It's right at your feet, so it's like coming right up at your face.
Absolutely.
It's like, how much better could you hear your own guitar tone? So,
so it's really nice.
And the QSC, you use a Yamaha, that's right. Yeah, Yamaha's
right.
Great.
QSCs are also good.
They're also great too.
They are.
But you guys just run like a PA in the rehearsal room?
Yeah, so as you know, the Kemper allows you to run direct through the board.
Mm-hmm.
And so in addition to having that monitor that I have when I play live, the sound guy's able to get that natural sound coming right through the mains, and it's really wonderful. It's actually really cool. So.
Yeah, in the practice room, it's all PA. Like we
because your keys are running through the PA.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that level here at some point where we can practice with some in-ears in the room and stuff. Right. But right now it's all through PA.
Yeah. Well, it sounds, like through a PA, I like the feeling of a loud, practice room too. But I guess the in-ears, I feel like you can protect your ears better. I don't know. Dallas, you practice with the in-ears.
We do in-ears. Yeah. It's just, it gives you control. If you want to blow your head off, you can. If you want to keep it quiet, you can.
Well, I will have to get some notes from you on good in-ears when we wrap up.
My custom ones are coming in this week.
Yeah, definitely need to get some information.
By the way, that might be worth mentioning, at least for the listeners. I have my molds done and got the custom ones done this.
Yeah, describe that experience and how painlessly it was.
My buddy at the church I work at is an audiologist, so he does all the molds and stuff. So he's been telling me like, dude, when are you coming in to get them? So because he cut me a really good deal, so I went in and got the molds done. So I mean, he just literally tilts your head over, pumps this like it's the liquid. If you've ever had molds made of your teeth, that like soft like liquid that kind of hardens over time. They squirt that in your ear. Okay. It feels so weird, and it goes ridiculously deep. Like it's so deep. Like it was the deepest I've ever had anything in my ear. It was really uncomfortable.
Like your headphone won't go that deep, but they'll trim that part out.
Right. So he has to put the first thing in. It's like this little like tampon kind of thing, like because of the string, so he can pull it back out. Because like, how are you going to get it out otherwise? So he puts that in first, and then fills the mold, and then pulls it back out, and then they harden over time. So he does both ears. Then you send that to the company, and they take that mold and put their electronics in it, and so it's your ear with headphones.
Cool. And what was the company that you went with?
Oh, honestly, I don't remember the name. He's got all the info.
Okay,
it's not one of the big ones though,
right,
for sure.
He is a representative of them, or
he does. He works. He does so much business through them. So
when you get inner ears, do all of them go through this process of fitting it to your ear specifically, or
for custom ones, yes.
Okay, that might be expensive.
That's it can be. That's kind of like a step above like the standard ones. Like the ones I run in here most of the time are the well, they're in my bag, but they're the Shure 215s. Mm-hmm. They're like $99. I was surprised the first time I put them in. Once you get them in the right way, they just go right in. They fit. It feels like almost custom. Like
so, it's interesting you mentioned this, and I don't want to deviate too far from.
No, deviate.
Oh no,
that's what these are for.
Well, I had considered at the time of getting that Kemper of going inner ear, and I didn't have enough information at the time. So the most readily available information was to go with the monitor in front of me and go with that. I've talked to a guy last night after our show about inner ears, and he had provided some pros and cons.
Right.
One of the cons he said was that the guitar unfortunately ends up sounding a little bit thin.
Right. I can see that.
Yeah.
And they make upgrade headphones. I know they make like,
Yeah, I haven't experienced that personally. The best I think my guitar sounds is when I'm in my ears.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah, and I'm just running the 215s are a single driver, so it's basically like a normal like headphone.
Well, that's great.
And then basically the more drivers you get, the more clarity and bass.
Well, I'll definitely
as you go up.
Like I said, when maybe we can get together later on that because I'd love to explore that a little bit.
Absolutely. We talked about in-ears a lot.
Yeah, we had an episode where we went into it a little bit too, and we talked about how a cheap way to do it. I remember that, like really good, and it's wired basically. So if you wanted to not spend a whole lot of money, you could, if you're in your practice room and you're doing it that way, you can just be wired. There's no reason you need to be wireless. I
can set you up with that for $180.
Yeah.
And most people think in-ears, like thousands of dollars, and it is.
Yeah, that's
for the wireless receivers and stuff. Yeah,
so that's
what's on top of that board up there. There's wireless receiver, and the pack is in front of it right there. Yeah, and that's one of them. So you have to have one of those for each person.
And
or
alternatively,
you have a stereo signal. But
if you see the green line on that tuner in that rack, this is really good audio for people that can only hear it. Right. Right below that, all those 8 channels. That's just a headphone amp.
What's that model of
that's a Behringer or something or the other. It's $150.
Yeah,
for 8.
So
you can run
affordable.
Up to 8. I mean that's they're mono,
cool.
but
that's pretty cool. So if we ever want to have backup lead singers,
something real cheap and just to get you up and going, you can do it. But
so for someone like a drummer, wired is usually what they do
you don't really need anything.
A keyboard player. I mean, I don't know how much you move around as a frontman or whatever, but if you're like at a keyboard, like wired can also work for that.
Yeah, I don't move around enough.
Oh, come on. He's like he's the soul version of David Lee Roth on the stage.
Okay.
Dance floor out there.
It's one of those things where you see these big stars, on these humongous stages, and you're just watching them frolic around the stage. And you're
that's like
you go to set up at your gig, and the bass player is hitting you in the back of the head with his neck, and it's like
you're thinking you're gonna do all this stuff.
All right,
that people
I guess
do.
I can't move now.
Yeah. That's for the later in life when you're playing those big old stadiums. But it also I was amazed at the people how free they feel on stage in front of that many people, and they're just frolicking around like nothing. It's so funny to me.
Also been doing it for a while.
Comfortable, huh?
Also been doing it for a while.
That's right. They're comfortable.
Well,
right,
I don't know. I'm speaking strictly out the side of my neck because I've never done it, but I think it does give you another thing to do on stage.
Yeah.
Where, if you feel like you've been standing somewhere singing for a long period of time, go move over to the stack on the other side of the stage. And,
Yeah,
you
totally.
just added another element to the show.
And totally, and people are intrigued, like they want to know what's going on. Like, oh, he's moving around now.
Why did he move to the left of the stage?
Yeah.
Exactly.
There must be something.
I want to know.
Yeah.
But in-ears, I mean, we love them. It's really funny. If you walk by our room when we're full on practicing, you'll only hear drums.
And a little bit of vocals.
And occasionally you'll hear our
a
singer.
little bit of vocals. Yeah.
So you don't hear, because I'm Kemper direct, bassist direct. So it's just,
Yeah, I imagine you
I
guys.
pointed over there. My Kemper's
running
actually
everything
packed
through
up, but he
PA,
usually
so
sits in
that'd
there.
be a similar
Killer.
situation
That's
for
great,
you.
man.
So I love it because, I mean, it's total control.
So did you know with your Kemper? Did you how'd you go about setting up your profiles?
For this gig in particular, or just
In general, yeah. I mean,
This is interesting too because Dallas, you are not a tube amp owner. You don't have any amps, but you.
I've had some in the past,
Okay.
yeah. And my first thing ever,
So what did you
was like-
start with? Yeah.
I definitely remember I had this little tiny Behringer combo.
Okay,
It was
yeah.
garbage.
Yeah, sure.
And the first tube amp I ever had was some Marshall or the other.
Oh, really?
I think it was a JCM 600,
Okay.
which is not very common and also not very good.
Yeah, I can't remember what.
And then I had a Mesa Dual Rec. Didn't like that very much.
No.
I had an EVH 5153. Loved that.
Okay.
But I sold it
You
because it was
had
just,
some tube
it was
amps.
a pain in the ass to-
I guess I never noticed that you had like or talked about.
No, that EVH is the shit.
Yeah, I'm
that
sure,
amp
but
was
I never knew you as a tube.
The problem
amp
was,
owner,
like,
I guess. I don't know why.
I kept like sitting down at the amp and being like, okay, here's my 3 channels. Or I kept sitting down at the Kemper and being like, okay, here's my 1,000 presets.
right,
Like,
right, exactly.
oh, let me throw up a stereo delay here. Done. Let me throw up
it
a stereo
kinda
chorus.
seemed-
And to do that on a thing is like you're running cables. You're like, oh crap, now I got to go to Guitar Center. I'll have this one patch cable.
right, I'm
so,
missing-
It's like,
but now for your Kemper, did you find some profiles that were stock and then just kind of tweak?
actually, very little of what's in my Kemper is what came with the Kemper.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
couple, but I have some packs I've bought, some free packs I've found, and then a bunch I've made.
Oh, that's great.
So,
man. With some of the ones that you bought, who did you had?
Yeah, who'd you go with?
Britt has some
yeah.
great ones. His name's Michael, right? Michael
Mike
Britt
Britt, I
from
believe that's right,
Lone
yeah.
Star. Amp Factory has some good ones. They're over in the UK, I think. I've talked to Andy, their main guy. He's super cool.
That's cool. That's kind of cool that you can actually reach out and talk to somebody in person.
STL Tones, they have some of the best for sure.
Did
Phenomenal.
you have you looked into Top Jimmy at all? Or
I have some of his
Okay.
some of their
Yeah,
stuff.
those are good ones too.
Yeah.
He's real thorough.
I mean, anytime you're scrolling the Kemper and Top Jimmy comes up, it's usually usable.
Yeah.
That's what I go by. Is it usable or not? Because
Yeah.
some of them are not usable.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Sure.
They do not sound very good, and that's what's scary. You know, someone grabs a Kemper and goes through a couple stock presets and goes, this is garbage, and throws it away. It's like, well, wait a second.
But
Like,
yeah, really. But it's interesting. Even when in my experience with profiles and amps, just in general, is sometimes when you land on a sound that you think is good, when you plan it isolated, it's one thing. But when you put it into the context of the
Absolutely.
band, sometimes it doesn't really work well with the band.
Exactly.
Right.
You have to.
I find that out.
Right. You
Yeah.
have to find the
Conversely,
Yeah.
you can hear some shit guitar tones that work really well in a band.
No
and
kidding.
A perfect example is Izzy Stradlin, dude.
Right.
Oh,
right.
wow.
I got
that's-
I got the multi tracks for several of their songs, and his tone is shit.
Yeah.
No,
It
but
is
you know-
so thin and just like what?
But when
did
you
what
hear
needed
it
to
pan,
But in the
do.
mix, it's like
Slash's
perfect.
Tone, underneath Flash's tone and Duff's tone, all that mixed
Yeah.
together. He
It's-
didn't need to fill a huge
Yeah.
spot.
It's honestly like so bad to the point that I'm surprised someone wasn't like, "Hey, are we gonna do something about that tone?" Like, like it's really like,
It's interesting. Not having been the biggest Guns N' Roses fan, I have a real appreciation for what they
Yeah,
were able to
we're
do.
both huge fans. We follow
Yeah,
it.
My favorite
Well,
band for sure.
My apologies.
No, it's all right.
No, it's okay if you're not a fan.
Yeah, I know, right? but
That doesn't
Mark,
change me being a fan.
Mark, the guy that turned me on to the Kemper, he's
Yeah.
a huge Guns N' Roses fan. Even so much that it's funny. I looked in my yearbook. We went to high school together.
Okay.
And he used to refer to himself. He signed my yearbook. He used to refer to himself as Izzy.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
Yeah, but he had told me a couple of stories, and he was gets really into it, and he's telling me about how they pan the guitars and all this good stuff.
Yeah.
He's a guitar nerd
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
am. I'm like, yeah, well, really?
Yeah,
And then I'm listening to it closer. I'm like, well, that's actually kind of cool. Not only the guitar parts, but the tone. I mean, as they come together,
Yeah.
they're
That's a big
totally
part of it.
yeah, but they're totally different. Like Slash's tone and Izzy's tones are completely opposite.
Izzy is almost clean.
Yes,
So and Slash
exactly.
is so distorted.
but to do some of those cool kind of riffs, I mean, those riffs that he's doing are just really
and he's
cool.
a big
man.
writer on the band. Like that's
what I
probably
heard,
where
yeah.
he really got the balls to do like whatever his guitar track was. Nobody's gonna say shit. They're just like,
Yeah, really,
yeah.
you know,
he
it's
wrote
like,
these
yeah,
songs.
dude,
I was
so-
I was listening to a podcast and somebody was saying they were sitting at a bar and Guns N' Roses came on and they had 2 speakers, so he was only getting one channel, and he said the guitar playing was so bad and I was sitting there going, "That's Izzy."
You heard the whatever it was, the right side or whatever.
Yeah,
I guess it's the right side, right?
I don't remember. They definitely like a side, whoever makes it.
Right,
But
right.
I have a question because I've never heard from this perspective. I've only talked to guitar players about the Kemper. How did you and the other bandmates react when he switched? Like, does that change things for you in any way? Does it make it better, worse?
I'll say it didn't change a whole lot. And he's sitting next to me. He might try to talk me down, but Mike's playing. Even when he's just like noodling on
It's
something
really loud
in the room, is really good.
Yeah.
I
will second you on that.
And so I just recently, I am not a guitar nerd at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently felt good because I had a conversation with Mike about guitar tone on a specific song, and I felt like I was actually adding something to the conversation. So
nice.
No, when he first brought it in, the first thing I saw was like the USS Enterprise.
Yeah, the space alien.
Right. It's like a
console.
Computer. Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
One thing I love about my Kemper is no one will ever steal it because they don't know what it is. It's not like a guitar. You see, I could sell that. You don't know what the hell you're looking
It's
at.
like some
But yeah, it's like, as far as translation, like nothing was lost in translation.
That's what you want.
From
That's what you
him
want,
going
right?
from speakers in the head to.
Well, what
to the
about you
Kemper.
guys rehearsing in a room with a live PA? And I guess this kind of depends on what you were running before.
Were you
running like
mic'd
a
up
2
before?
and a
Like you
412
mic
or
up
something?
for practice, probably, right?
No,
You just play out of a cabinet.
It would really no need to.
Right.
Really the dynamic difference.
What were you running before?
So I had a Bogner Helios.
Okay, yeah.
And I was.
I have a couple
Lamp.
profiles of that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I do too, man. The Imbrit.
Yeah, he has some.
It's
Yep, that's the
killer,
ones.
man.
Yeah.
So I had run a Bogner Helios, and right before that, a Goldfinger 45.
Okay, cool.
Big Bogner guy here. I really love him.
So running that through a 412?
212.
212. Okay,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like Matt's freaking hell
No,
stack over there.
not at all. Which is it. I get jealous when I see a setup like that because I'm like, man, that is cool, and it brings me back to my rock and roll days, man. Where the guitar player is the most prominent, important piece of the whole the picture, So I'm like, oh man, it kind of makes me want to be like.
I love your Bogner too, and that Helios. I don't think you had it when I met you, but I wish I would have got to play through that thing. I think
it's great.
Great amp.
It's wonderful.
So the tones were still solid, of course. What about? Was there more? Were you feeling like there was more control? I know sometimes, and it doesn't sound like this was the case here, but sometimes guitar player comes in with a stack, cranks it to 10, nobody can hear anything. But switching to a Kemper in that case controls a lot more for everybody.
Yeah, and I think beforehand Mike was pretty cognizant
That's good.
of that. I mean, we've had some small rooms. I mean, we had a larger room just recently, but I think that there's such an appreciation amongst all the band members that everybody is really interested in what the other person's doing.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to hear what everybody else is kind of
That's
doing.
good.
So it's not like, oh, this is my show, I'm about to blow this thing out kind of thing.
You guys are like one hell of a unit as far as like everybody knowing like the way to make the song the best it is. Like you guys are obviously great songwriters and players. So
Thank you. And I wanted to piggyback on something Ade just said because he actually had the right answer. I was waiting to hear that, that. But, I think part of it is the whole cognizant part of being in a rehearsal, especially like this. I had playing in my hard rock days, of course, and being the wannabe guitar hero, right? And I wanted to be the absolute loudest, and I usually was. There's plenty of times where people are like, "Okay, yeah, you're a little loud, man. You think you could just bring it down, maybe like 100 decibels,
just
like
100 decibels.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring it down to a cool 200.
Yeah, exactly right. And so you get, and this is obviously this project is a lot different than that. So it will be hard for me to be the loudest person, especially when you consider all the knuckles I throw in there, man. It's like the clams I'm playing in the middle of a song. Don't want to hear that. It's like, but anyway, yeah. So
The music is deep, and I think you have you guys all have a great sense of what you're trying to do, and I feel like it really comes across. Like it's so solid. I love I don't know, talk about you guys all day, but
How do you guys run your rehearsals?
Yeah. Recently we're working out a new drummer right now, so recent rehearsals are, basically getting him up to speed, learning the repertoire, so forth and so on. But I mean, before that, like if we had a show coming up, we would kind of put our heads together, set lists, maybe run when everybody was familiar with all the material. We'd run through the songs just to make sure we're all set. And every now and then we try to work out an intro to here, work out an outro to there. Are we going to do like a transition from this song to this song kind of deal? And then there was that nice little stretch of time not long after I joined the band where we were strictly writing.
Right.
And it wasn't so much of rehearsal as it was, more of just songwriting sessions. And
right.
one of the coolest things that I feel about this band is that you can come in with an idea, but everybody's aware. You bring your idea into the room, you're serving it up.
Yeah, it's subject
and it's
to everybody's opinion.
And
Absolutely.
it's like, oh, that's a cool riff. What about this change?
Sure.
What about this? One of my first rehearsals with them, when I was still technically auditioning.
Right.
I brought in a song that I'd written some time ago, but they asked me to learn a few of their deals and then bring in whatever I had, kind of thing. And so I had this song. It was mostly lyrics. I had a few chords to it, but primarily I'm a vocalist. I would love. I'm working on amping up my instrumental skills.
Yeah, on the keyboard.
On the keys.
Skills,
I would love to be able to play rhythm guitar behind Mike someday,
Sure.
but
just don't go into the lead territory.
But
There can only be one.
I brought this song in, and it was pretty standard, 1-4-5 chord changes, whole deal kind of thing. And I sang through it maybe once or twice, and then Mike started playing some stuff with it, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that.
Right, immediately changing like the inspiration of it, or like just taking a different direction. And that's so cool. The collaboration of effect of being in a band. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think in order for that to really work, I think everyone has to have some trust for each other,
Definitely
right?
Respect, like
Absolutely.
Respect for like the musicianship.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like you're not going to take criticism from somebody who you don't respect as a musician. So
Yeah,
I think that's
definitely.
And to that point, I don't know that you would feel so comfortable bringing something in if you don't really respect somebody and saying,
Yeah.
hey, you know what, here's something I'm willing to. Here's something that here's an idea that I kind of gave birth to, and I'm asking you to take it to the finish line, and you're not going to do that if you don't. To your point,
you
don't
got to
respect
be
somebody. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And kind of when we were first putting together the Hawthornes, we went through the first few months were a pretty intensive songwriting process for us. We were just putting ideas together, and a lot of those things were born out of just kind of jams, open jams.
Yeah.
Or maybe I would have like a guitar riff that I said, okay, let me, got to come up with something to have it ready to go and serve it up. One idea in particular, there's a song on the first album called Imagination. And this hopefully will kind of underscore this point that we're talking about here. When that song came to us, it was an idea actually that Chris had written. It was a song. It was about 3/4 of the way finished.
Chris, the bass player.
Chris, the bass player,
yeah.
And he is a phenomenal musician. He's just, he's a great bass player, but he's even more so just an incredible musician with just an unbelievable sense of melody and rhythm. It's just unbelievable, So he brought in this song, and he being a pretty big fan of folk music. He brought in this song, played it in an acoustic for us, and I was like, "That's really cool." And he said, "Well, I'd like for us to work on this." And the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear that is like, "Do you really want us to work on it like that, or to Ade's point, you're serving it up?"
Right.
So Chris allowed us to actually take this song and turn it into something totally different, and it ended up being a really, our first single off that particular album, and totally different than what he had started out with.
Right,
but
right.
that because of that respect factor, right, and that trust
Absolutely.
that came with it. And so I've worked in the opposite situations where you've had guys come in and they have like a sheet music and they give it to you and they say, that's a little different.
That's a different
right?
situation. That's where you get into a situation where the band is called that guy's name, like what I mean, like Bon Jovi or whatever.
You would like to think
Right,
that, but
right.
some of these guys, right? There's like one situation. Some of the names will be protected or whatever, but but I've been in a situation. I remember one rehearsal with a guy who literally brought in sheet music for the song he wrote, and he really wrote every part of it. And I'm not saying I can't do that.
Right.
I mean, there's something to be said for being able to be given the freedom, express.
Absolutely, because you express yourself. Yeah. Then you feel connected to it every night you play it.
No
when
doubt.
you're playing something that somebody else wrote for you, you don't necessarily feel connected to that like you feel when you wrote something. So
It can't even say it any better than that. That's
It kind of, I mean, it's to me, it's the antithesis of being in a band.
right, because you're not expressing yourself. Now you're not. Now you're just being that guy's backup.
Yeah. Basically,
whatever,
you're a hired gun at that point.
and you got to make sure that paycheck,
Yeah,
it's in the mail.
Yeah, I saw something with Van Halen, an interview with Van Halen, and Eddie was talking about how he wrote, I think it was the second record, Dancing the Night Away, that's it. So he was talking about how that song originally came in as like it was a guitar like kind of ripper, and it didn't really turn out that way. That song kind of turned into the poppier Van Halen stuff, and he said that he brought that into the room, and Dave just had like his way with it. He just had something for it. He was like, "This is," and then he just let him go, and that's the way the band came up with that song. So it's funny, because that's
Isn't that a
I think
pretty-
that's one of the
pretty
best
big
Van Halen songs ever.
Isn't that a pretty big one?
It's a big one. It's a big hit. Yeah, I mean, but it's on the poppier side of Van Halen.
Yeah.
You'd say, you know what I mean? It's not. It's not Eruption. It's not.
Atomic Punk
Running
or
with the
something
Devil.
like
Right, exactly. So, but it's funny that he understood that, and I saw that interview early. Probably like 6 or 7 years ago or whatever, and I saw that, and I was like, that's interesting because that means a lot. Like to know that even his songs, when he brought Eddie Van Halen, himself brought his songs and knew they were going to change and knew this was not going to be the end result. So that's cool. That's cool.
What about like someone like Ozzy taking writing credit for like Randy's stuff?
Right. And you wonder about that stuff because
not just Randy.
Ozzy's name.
I mean, he did it with
Jakey
Jakey
Lee,
Lee too, man.
right,
Which is that's
What about the Zakk Wylde stuff? Like No More Tears and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Did the
it's
same
all under
thing happen?
Ozzy's name, So and I don't know. I don't know the details of who brought what to that.
I wonder
project.
if you end up signing a contract, like, hey, anything
Maybe.
you come up with is
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you're under my big old name, so whatever this is going to be, it's
I
me.
think it's interesting because I think sometimes but we don't think through those details sometimes, right?
Right,
When
exactly.
we join up with somebody and you, the last thing you want to think of is, hey, Ozzy is going to take credit for my riffs,
exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't know.
and you don't
Exactly.
probably, and when you know, it's too late.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
It's done
Yeah.
now.
It's done.
I'm in.
And
They've already announced it. I'm in the band.
But here's the thing, though, and as you guys in the music industry is pretty cutthroat. So if you are not about your business, somebody else is.
Yeah.
And whoever you're working with is working behind the scenes.
That's a serious thing, man.
And I don't want to play that up as like it's clandestine all the time, but these are the facts of the business that we're in. I mean, it is.
Most artistic minds aren't thinking the business side of things.
That's
And-
correct.
And there are people who are only thinking the business side of
That's
things, and they're
correct.
taking advantage of the artistic minds that are in the
I
situation.
mean,
so.
I'm definitely kind of a self-titled historian. I love history. I love documentaries. I love
Me
reading,
too,
getting
yeah.
into that stuff. And recently, I've been getting into like the history of the music industry.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, I couldn't spout off any resources.
What
what
good documentaries have you seen that you were like kind of shocked by or whatever to see?
I wasn't shocked by anything. to
Right.
be
Yeah,
honest
that's
with
true.
you.
Yeah.
But I just recently came across, oh man, what's this guy's name? I think it's Steve Knopper or something like that.
Okay.
KNO, something like that. But
Okay.
he updated a book that he'd written. I think it's called Appetite for Destruction or something like
Okay.
that. I might have to look that up before
Is it,
I'm putting
Sounds like
is it
a
one
Guns N'
on
Roses album.
is it one on guns or something?
it's a book, and
Uh-huh.
it's about how the music industry, just kind of the stalwarts of the music industry, they're just set up to be in defiance of innovation.
Right. I got
Almost.
I
So
gotcha.
it's like
They want this one thing. They find something that's working out, and then they just go with that, and then nothing else is good.
And when something comes along to challenge that, their first thought is to stamp it down,
smash it, rather than this could be the next thing or whatever.
Instead of buying into it, like
because they've already had so much invested in what's going on right now, and that's
if
the way it is.
When in school, I read this Harvard Business Review article called "Marketing Myopia." And one of the things they talked about was like if the railroad barons, had they thought of themselves as transportation companies, once the commercial airline industry took off, they were open to do that.
Right.
But they thought of themselves as railroad guys.
Right.
And so once the planes came along, they were like, all right, now how do we keep people off of those airplanes and keep them riding on these trains kind of thing.
Right.
And basically what he was turning it around to is like with the music industry and the record industry, they were so set on the physical manifestation of their product, the record, the cassette,
the album,
the CD, like that was their product.
Yeah.
Not realizing that their product was the art.
Right.
And if they had bought into the art, when MP3s came along, they would have been set up right there to just, there wouldn't have been a Napster.
Right.
They would have had that going
That's a really
already.
Good point. I've never thought of it.
But I mean, you think
about the brilliant mind of Adi Herbert.
You think about it, like they basically sued their customers.
That's so crazy, man.
It's like how do you build how do you build an industry where you're trying to sue the people who is buying your stuff?
Yeah, you're trying to get people on your side so that way they're willing to participate in music and the buying and sharing of music, and instead they start suing people.
Yeah.
They could have just got in front of that maybe. And it was out there, like it was happening. Like we knew about it. It was just they weren't willing to maybe invest into the streaming platform.
Yeah.
They weren't willing to change their ways.
But basically they didn't want to change because the profit margins weren't defined.
Right.
So they didn't know how big it would grow, and they didn't want to lose. They didn't want to cut anything from the profits that they were getting beforehand, which turned out pretty
and maybe
bad.
they thought that without their help in this thing, because music industry is a huge thing, and these guys think of themselves as major players. Maybe they thought if they didn't buy into this, that it wouldn't go anywhere. Like maybe they thought this is not going to work out but it ended up being like a free share, like a share type thing, and it was all just working out for free. And then they're like, okay, well this isn't going to work out either. Yeah. And then it was too late by then. So
and I guess kind of bringing that back around to where I'm flighty, dude. I'm a lead singer, so you got to give me a little bit of time to come around to it. I do like the sound of my voice,
and he's actually great with ballet
too.
He's a
great vocalist. I love your sound too. So.
The whole thing about the business, if you're, the record industry basically was set up by a bunch of people who figured out we can make money off of these flighty artists who, they have something good and they don't even know it because they'll do it for free.
Made it easy for them.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and make some money off of them. We'll throw them some pennies, give them a name, on a Broadway marquee. And they'll be happy with that because they didn't have that before.
Hashtag Spotify.
And it's just because of their connections and reach and ability to push something. You know what I mean? And that's really what they had, the music industry had over the musicians themselves and over the artists.
You guys saw that thing that's recently said artists make 12% or whatever. What do you guys think about that?
Obviously, I think that they should make, in my mind, if somebody's making the product, they should make the majority of it.
It depends, though, because if you're like, for example, let's just take like Demi Lovato. Sorry, not sorry. Let's take that one. Did she make that product?
I don't know her background.
She sang that product, that's for sure.
She didn't make that product.
No, you have a team of writers, you have a team of producers, you have a team of marketers that shove it down teenage girls' throats.
Right.
That's where all that money's coming from. She probably only did about 12% of the work.
Right. Exactly.
That may not be true for all the other bands, of course, but I mean, in the pop kind of world, in a hip hop especially as well, I think 12% is about right.
I guess you have to be willing to split once you're in a Demi Lovato position. I think the fair thing would be to split your cut, that same cut as an artist, right? So we call that the artist, and then we call the other part the pushing and the marketing, right?
Yeah,
like
producers, label, whatever.
So once you add all these writers, this team of writers and this team of musicians to your cut or to the making of the music, then you have to split your cut with them. And I think then that it should maybe be like, because the marketing thing could be split up into many ways too, right? Don't lots of record companies will put in a little bit or share like an artist kind of thing.
It depends on so many different
There's a
factors.
lot of things. There's
I
a lot.
do
Every
think that-
deal's different.
I think that the model kind of how the model's supposed to be with artist and management, that works because as an artist, and if you're the artist, you created the product, it's your product and it's yours.
Yeah.
If that manager's going out and finding venues and finding avenues for you to go in, then yeah, he deserves a cut of
Absolutely.
that revenue that's coming in because he's finding opportunities that you wouldn't have gotten
Exactly.
otherwise.
And music people aren't necessarily minded that way. They're not where they're like, I'm going to go out and find all these, places that I can play at. They don't necessarily have that.
Right.
Not always.
Right. But yeah, if I create something, and I guess that's changing a lot now with the kind of the broadening of the independent music scene, but like the way the industry used to be, especially in getting a big deal where you have to basically sign over the rights to your masters and stuff like that.
Yeah, I couldn't do
That's
that.
dirty.
That's me too.
That's
That's where I
dirty.
feel like the weird thing is now, like, I feel like I want to, whatever I do with my music, I want to stay away from that where somebody else owns it because
Yeah.
that's a weird thing.
Well, and some of that in a traditional sense, when we, like when I was growing up and you heard the term of those $500,000 record contracts,
Right.
and you're thinking, well, that sounds like a lot of good money. But one of the things that people don't realize about the deals are they're like a loan, right?
Right.
So,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
and the contract is laden full of language that you're referring to there, where you're kind of giving up rights, and there's a certain percentage that certain executives or whoever is a part of this contract are going to be entitled to from whatever you get. And the thing about it is, and it's interesting because we in my early rock days being out on the road, there was one band in particular. Well, there's a few, so not to go down that road too far, but a lot of these guys were kind of thrust out onto the road to, if you couldn't sell enough albums, couldn't move enough albums to pay that loan back, they're going to stick you out on the road until you
You
can.
get in the road until you can, like,
Yeah.
get out in front of people,
Absolutely.
buy that record, right?
Absolutely.
And then they relied on the live act doing that. So sometimes record labels were just like, this band may not sell the records on their music alone but maybe the live act's strong enough to carry over to people. So there's there was definitely all that stuff going on.
This perfectly ties in with that Steel Panther
Yeah,
link
how
you
about,
sent me.
How about that?
It was an interview. Do you guys know Steel Panther at all?
Yeah.
It was an interview with Styx, the drummer, who, and I mean, they play dopes. Like, you would think maybe they're not the brightest. Dude, they are sharp.
Oh, yeah,
they
they're
know
great.
what the fuck's up.
And they've been
They
around.
I mean, obviously
absolutely-
they know their stuff music wise. That's never been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But business wise, Styx was dropping some knowledge that I was like, this guy knows what it's about. Like, he was saying, I think he was talking, advice for young kids or whatever. He was saying, be careful of the record deal, all this stuff. Whatever they give you, they're gonna recoup.
Absolutely.
So that $100,000 advance that looks so good right now, you don't get paid till that gets paid back. When Styx even said, like, when the engineer's mixing your record and he orders lunch, you're paying for that lunch. Like,
Yep.
you gotta. I mean, everything that the record label's not paying for it, you're paying for it.
Yeah, that's
in the
right.
long
So-
run, for
It's
sure.
you look at it as a long-term loan,
Yeah.
and you are responsible. So yeah, it makes you think, if you ever get, and Ade alluded to this a little earlier with the independent of music scene, right?
Yeah.
So is that something you would rather have, is the ability to create music under that umbrella without having the big contract or the big loan to pay back
Right.
off, and
Right.
then you get to have royalties to your music, but
Sure.
then you have to be smart enough how to set up that business all by yourself.
Exactly. And
Not likely.
yeah, and I think
That's exceedingly
I think the thing-
complex.
I think, and what I feel good about is like the ability to sell your own. If you own your music and you own your name and everything like that, that's not anything like you have to debate. You can sell merch, whatever you want to do. You could. There's so many different ways to make music. I mean, to make money. Sorry, through music without actually being it just a music. Like
Right,
selling
right.
albums may die down, but if you can come up with great T-shirt designs and great things that associate people with your band or get people what's the word, like relative to your band, I
Like
guess.
engaged.
Yeah, engaged to your band, right? Whatever it be, like the Steel Panther thing being that the pedal that was labeled the Pussy Melter under TC Electronics
hilarious. That's
name,
great.
but they're a huge worldwide
I'm so pumped
company.
TC did that, even to begin with, for the first.
Right,
like,
right. So they're a
I'm
worldwide
officially
company.
offended.
And as soon as a petition came out saying that that's sexist, that's whatever, and like that, they had to drop it. They couldn't there's something now
What's
we can't. We're not gonna
sexist
fight
You can't
about
have any
cats?
fun nowadays.
So what they did is
I mean, I don't get it. I like cats. Don't you guys like cats?
totally.
Well, were we
I
talking
mean,
about
you
something
don't
else?
want to
Yeah.
go around
What's
melting
wrong with
them.
being
You get in
sexy?
trouble with PETA and stuff. Right?
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Exactly.
good.
Then you
Well,
got
that's
beat up
true.
your
That's
ass.
People get really mad when I
So-
melt my cats.
So what they ended up doing was TC had to drop it. TC Electronics had to drop it, and Steel Panther. I'm not sure what part of Steel Panther did
Just
this.
the
but
brand.
The brand Steel Panther, I guess, is now putting out this pedal on their own because there's a
Independently, yeah.
petition. In reaction to the petition to get rid of it, there was a petition to bring it back at the same time. So they had,
That's the
they
world
had
we live in.
enough demand. They were like, well, this petition's got this many signatures. These people are going to buy this, or and they're into it.
Yeah, you see
So
10,000 signatures
right,
at $200 a pop. You're like,
That's
all right,
it.
let's
He's
do
like,
it.
All right, that's enough incentive for me to build this thing on my own.
Don't get me
So they did
started
it.
on the PC culture.
Totally, I hear you. So I'm all about people being able to say what they want. If you don't like it, don't subscribe to it. That's fine. But this story is giving me faith that at least the creative mind comes in the end. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like he had a great idea. It got shunned by a certain amount of people, and then this global company couldn't deal with that shunning or whatever the bad look.
Are they
So-
a public company, by the way? Is TC like? Is it
They're
TC?
global. They're worldwide.
I don't think they're public, though. I don't think
They're
they're
not
IPO.
public. Okay, I was
I don't
going to say
know.
because a lot of times, that
I don't
they
know,
can't,
but I don't
right.
think so.
And they have
I
no
don't-
choice.
yeah.
I don't
Right.
think they're particularly massive or anything. They're a big company, but
Yeah.
they're guitar pedals.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I had
More
a
than that, I
G
think, though, right?
system, so
yeah, those were cool.
Those were cool. I never learned how to use it though.
I heard a lot of cool
voice,
stuff.
They
from
do
them.
voice effects too.
Yep, I have one of those little
Yeah.
voice processor things. I
Yeah.
did not like it very much.
Do you use any vocal pedal on your voice when you do live or
I don't. I would like to.
Yeah.
I like toys. I like playing around with toys, but
just having dynamic, like just changing scene from scene,
Some like Reggie Watts stuff or something.
yeah. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I've seen like the local singer songwriter. Like I've seen some people do some phenomenal stuff
Yeah.
with that. I mean,
Get 'em
you
dialed in.
you have to know how to use it.
Yeah.
You got to know your way around it. But like I've seen some guys who they've been able to. I mean, they play to almost to an internal click track.
Yeah.
But they recorded these elaborate backing vocals that
Yeah.
they just
Reggie Watts
punch
does that
in,
all the time.
punch
Yeah.
in, punch out
That's
on,
cool,
and
though. I mean-
it's crazy.
anything you use to make the show better, that's what in my opinion, especially if you're doing a live show, it's not just easy. It's not like it's easy to reach down and get those pedals and stuff like that and to get it all set up in the first place. But,
Yeah.
So it's like another thing, you're adding to it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like, I spend a ton of time on the front end
Yeah.
before rehearsals, before anything,
Yeah.
to make sure that when I'm on stage, it's easy as shit.
Yeah. Because you don't
Like,
want
I program all my Kemper changes to MIDI on a click track, so I don't have to touch a pedal the whole show.
Right.
Like every change is right on a click. Like,
Yeah.
So I can change and it lets you do stuff you can't do otherwise. For example, if you're playing a rhythm thing and there's a gap in the vocal and you hit
What's
like
rhythm?
a wah, wah, like a little quick little lick, you can switch to the lead channel for that one lick and then right back.
and you don't
so
have to
that it
touch
jumps
anything.
out like it's
Yeah.
like studio quality stuff.
I am
live.
definitely coming over to pick this dude's brain.
Yeah, you need to. You guys would have a great show.
And then, I mean, just little things like that so that when it's time to perform, I can just focus on performing.
What's your hourly rate, by the way?
Because I
Sure, I
hate
you.
you did
tap
that with the
dancing,
Journey,
dude.
the Journey
I hate
tribute
tap
too, right?
dancing. Yeah, I
Journey
did the
tribute
same
had
thing.
all this,
And it was all for the
Kemper
same
was
reason.
lined up with the video in the background. He had it lined up so they're playing because
Yeah.
it's a Journey tribute, so people want to see clips of Journey and stuff. Dude, it was amazing.
My
I went
favorite
and saw
thing,
it myself.
my
It was
favorite thing
amazing.
I did with that is I took the Faithfully music video, which
Yeah.
was not recorded to a click.
Right.
Why? And then,
Did someone say Journey?
Don't
You like
get me
Journey out
started.
there?
are you a Journey fan or a
Get
Journey
me
hater?
started, man. I love Journey.
You love
love
Journey?
Journey.
I was in a
Love.
Journey tribute, so there you go.
Love.
But we took
Hell
the
yeah.
Faithfully music video and I chopped it up to the click tempo we had. So it just took a bunch of taking this frame and slowing it down 1%, taking this frame, speeding up 2%, just so it matched.
So it lined up.
Because there's parts where it cuts to like Neil Sean and he's playing something, and I wanted that to line up to when I was playing it, and stuff like that. And that was probably my proudest moment of that
That's
show. was
great.
having
You
that.
get
That was a great
super
looking show.
kudos for being
Way
able to
everything
pull
happened.
off the Neil Sean thing, dude. That is not easy.
No,
He
yeah.
is
Okay, so
an
Neil
amazing
Sean is
guitar player.
quickly becoming like one of my least favorite people. Did you read that thing I sent you?
Man, I've
taking
heard that
full
from
credit.
so many people.
Right?
I've heard that from so many people.
I sent this article to Matt with the face palming, like whatever you call that
Yeah,
emoji or whatever the fuck.
Oh my god!
And
man.
the article was literally all about how Neil, first his lawyer, and then him personally emailed a news outlet that had said the band Journey's paying tribute to Aretha Franklin during their shows. And Neil wanted them to change the band Journey to Neil Sean.
Neil Sean wants to tribute to Aretha Franklin.
He literally went out of his way to be like, it was my idea. I came up with it. You change that right now to say I did it, not them. Like, it was like, dude, you are an ass. Like,
that's an example of being too much on the business side where you're just like so cutthroat. I don't
No, I think he's just, and hopefully he's never on the show. I think he's just kind of a douche.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people said also. They said the two D words they were throwing around were douche and diva. And I've heard from, and Ade apparently has too, everyone that's met him has been like, nah.
It's crazy because, and I'm definitely the MTV generation. I was like, maybe I'm gonna age myself here. I was maybe 6 or 7 when MTV came online.
Okay.
And I have 2 older sisters, and so like Journey, Rick Springfield,
fun story about Rick
hair
Springfield.
bands, all of that stuff like that. I couldn't listen to anything in the house,
right?
Because that's all that was being played.
On. Totally.
But I fell in love with Harmony really early.
Oh
in my
yeah.
life.
Oh, that's the place to do it too.
And Journey,
they have lots of seconds.
Yeah,
and nines.
Journey's harmonies, like they just stick with me.
Girl Can't Help It, dude. Killing me up.
Lights, man.
Lights.
Man.
Totally. That's my favorite. One of my favorite songs.
But
I love that outro to Stone in Love, though, man.
That's actually my least favorite part of that song, but I do love that song.
Stone in Love.
I love the way it starts.
He's charging me extra now for my for wisdom.
You said the wrong thing.
I know.
But so like I grew up with that whole thing, and then getting into music, running across. I lived in New York for a little while, so running across people who've kind of been around, people who are in studios and so forth. And like every time we would get into talking about Journey, and people were like, "Oh man, killer band."
Yeah.
Neil, and I was like, "Oh, that's so man, that just sucks to hear." Like, dude,
in this same article, he had said someone had referred to Ross Valerie as the founding bassist because he was the first and original bassist, right? Neil said, "No, he wasn't the founding bassist. I started this band with Herbie Herbert, no one else." But it was like, yeah, but he was the first bassist. Like, he's been on every album but one.
Say founding bassist.
And Neil's Twitter bio literally says, founding member of Journey and only all caps member to be on every album. And it was just like, dude, no chill.
He's taking all his little wins. He's taking them.
What do you guys think about Steve Perry's new songs?
I haven't heard them. I heard about them. I haven't heard them.
I heard the one cut that got passed around on Facebook.
No Erasing?
I don't remember the name of it. I actually liked it. I thought it was pretty good. It was a slow burn for me in the sense that it didn't really pick up until towards the end. When he did that.
It definitely didn't blow me away.
No, but I think it got better probably about halfway to 3/4 through, and I think the part that I remember, what I walked away from hearing that song was that nice little vocal build up that they did towards the end of that song was really cool.
2 Journey questions for you guys.
Yeah.
Favorite song that's not a hit?
For me, I would have to say, and this is strictly based off of the live experience that I was able to see him, but Mother, Father.
Okay. Great one.
Yeah.
Did you see Dean sing it? Yeah. Oh, dude, Dean kills it. Monster.
Mike, you got a preference? I think I've said my preference.
And we have the same one, I think. You and me, Matt.
Yeah.
What is yours?
I'd say Sweet and Simple.
Sweet and Simple for
is
me
like
too.
the one that's not a hit, and it's just like, God,
that
I
song,
love his vocals.
the first time you hear it, it'll be your favorite. It's just that good.
It's amazing. There's this note that he hits in there that
high A.
Yeah, I always think about God, that guy could fucking sing. Like no denying that.
And you always get you can obviously he can sing. Like of course it's Steve Perry, but you don't get a good sense of his range until that song. Like he's kind of always up in that upper tenor. No, he's up in the stratosphere in this song. And I didn't know he could do that before. You kind of hear him in the back on some harmonies, but
so. Steve Perry is even today with the fact that maybe he's not got quite the range.
Right.
He's still got
his voice has definitely changed.
Yeah, yeah. And
I don't know enough. I haven't listened to the whole album. It's not it's out yet. But
and I don't know enough about the human voice to comment on that. But I agree with you. It's changed. You can definitely tell there's a different timbre change. The tone is a little different. It's a little raspier.
It is for sure. I think he's all but lost it.
Yeah. Well, I think I guess
the last performance he ever did with Journey, it was just Neil, Jonathan, and Steve.
Yeah.
And it was it was actually kind of sad to watch. It was like this small-ish outdoor festival. It was just the 3 of them. There was a ton of other stuff on stage. So you could tell they were just kind of like in the middle of like a festival set. And they played Lights in they played Faithfully, which is in B, in A.
Ooh.
So it sounded really weird.
Yeah.
And like, and
a whole step
like
lower.
I heard him singing. And I was like, that's not the key. And I was like, oh, they're probably down a half step. Nope. They're down a whole step. And I was like, oh.
Did you use a tuner to check it?
I always keep a pitch pipe.
That's cool.
Like not a real pitch pipe, but a pitch
Like
pipe
a
app.
digital one?
Dude, that's probably the most used app on my phone.
Interesting. I should do that more. Just like for listening to music, I always think to myself, like, yeah, this would be cool to cover, but is it in drop? Like, I'm trying to think. Like,
Anytime I listen to metal bands, the first thing I do is figure out what tuning they're. Oh, they're in A. They're in A flat.
Right. You never know. It
Yeah.
could be
Drop
anywhere.
Z.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
And my second journey question. Well, actually, I'll let your answer first. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Actually, I'll go with Ade's answer.
Yeah.
Mother Father. It's a great one.
Mother, father's. Yeah.
I would maybe argue that's one of the lesser known hits.
Yeah. So
It's
you're-
not
you're
really
just
probably
all
not
hits.
as-
Yeah, I mean,
That's what I was gonna have
it's
trouble with.
definitely hit quality.
Right.
It's-
That's what I was
it's-
gonna have trouble with. What's
It's on
the-
Escape.
what's
Well,
the-
I was going to go with Stone in
Yeah.
Love, but since that's
Hit
not the
my mind.
right
It's
answer.
on the hit
So
album.
Stone in Love is your favorite, just overall. Stone in Love is your favorite overall, Mike.
Well, the favorite Journey song, no, not necessarily. There's a few. I don't know that I have a favorite. I really like the what's the two songs that they blend together?
Lights and Stay a While.
Was it Lights? No, I'm thinking of You Make Me Weak.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Stay a While.
Okay.
No. I'm Love and Touching. Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
no, it's all good. So I've always
That's a great one.
yeah, it is, man.
Definitely
I mean,
a hit,
You can't go wrong. But
Yeah.
what's the original keyboards player's name?
The Greg Rowley.
Greg.
Rowley.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong with his voice.
So-
He's got a classic voice.
I mean, you know he was in Santana. He's the one that sings Black Magic Woman.
Oh, I did not know that.
I don't think I knew that. No,
I love
knew
Black
that.
Magic
Him,
Woman.
him and
Makes
Neil were
sense.
both in Santana.
Yeah, I knew Neil.
I knew that's how
Neil got his start.
Neil got his
I
start.
didn't know.
Okay.
I didn't know this for
Yeah.
the longest time, but Greg is the one singing
I
Black
had
Magic
no
Woman.
idea. That's great.
Which is one of the.
Little, kind of interesting thing. I got a chance to on a reunion show a couple years ago for an old rock band that I was in. Matt's heard of.
Tipsy Gypsy.
Yeah, there you go,
Nice.
man. There's that name. So yeah, I had a reunion show with them. It was a sold out benefit show for cancer awareness. And,
Okay.
The MC for the show was Journey's original lead singer, Robert Fleischman.
Okay.
Oh wow.
And I got a chance to hang out with him a little bit. And he's a real nice guy, man. I don't know that a lot of people realize, his
Yeah.
time with
People don't know Journey before.
Did
Steve.
he have some cool
Yeah,
stories?
basically.
Or after.
Yeah.
Well,
Anything
I'm sure he did. I didn't get a chance to talk to him
Oh, okay.
long period.
Okay.
Well, because it was during a show, and he
Yeah,
was
right.
he was emceeing it, and
I wondered if he divulged anything though to do with Journey. Like, did he say anything?
I doubt he's just running around shouting shit.
I bet, but it'd be funny. Like, just didn't never know.
it's interesting. I know some guys. I have some friends of mine who know one buddy of mine in particular. He's really close with Robert, and he's says that Robert is obviously he's a humble guy, really nice guy, and he doesn't make a living out of
Sure.
bashing his time and Journey. I think
Sure.
it's an unfortunate
A little bit of Pete Best syndrome, maybe.
What's that now?
It's a little bit of Pete Best syndrome, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, it could be right, but it's he did some things after Journey that were somewhat, I guess that Vinnie Vincent Invasion.
Yeah, Vinnie
he
Vincent,
was
yeah.
the original lead singer of that, and then
Okay.
that kind of I think they went with what's the guy's name, Mark Slaughter, something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, Mark
Anyway.
Slaughter, yeah.
Super
But
versatile.
Robert's a great guy, man, and he still got some pipes on him, man. I mean, he can still go. I mean, he did a couple of songs that night. Not only being an MC and being gracious enough to come out and do that benefit.
cool.
It was sold out, by the way. It was really cool. But he got up there, man. He was killing it. He was
Nice.
still got a great voice. So
Nice.
My second leads perfectly into my second question, which is who's your favorite singer that's been in Journey that's not Steve? Perry.
it would be Robert Fleischman.
Cool.
And Greg Raleigh or Rowley or
Yeah,
however you
right.
pronounce it. Is it
So
Raleigh?
I
yeah.
go back and forth.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because he has. I guess a lot of people, and I think you alluded to this a moment ago. A lot of folks aren't aware of pre-Steve Perry Journey and the fact that
All
they
three
were.
albums.
Yeah, they were like
It sounded like Pink Floyd.
But
Yes,
yeah, there you go. They
all
were
this
like a
cool
fusion
stuff, yeah.
band, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it was crazy. I mean, and I think there was a little concern about that direction when Steve came in.
Oh, there definitely was.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. I mean, being,
I don't think they even wanted Steve.
No, they didn't. They wanted Neil and Greg wanted a screamer, is their words. They're like, we're not
Well,
doing
they
this.
had that in Robert.
Wow.
This
Robert
is
was a
this is
screamer,
the
you know?
this is interesting though. The
Interesting.
power of their manager. Their manager, Herbie Herbert. If you don't know him, you got to look up his shit because he's the reason they're famous.
Yeah.
He said, "Shut up, Steve's in the band." And the
Great.
band, and this
So
is the power
glad
of him.
he
The
did.
band was like, "Okay."
Well, I know. I think, but
That's a
if you
respect
think
thing.
about it, whether or not you necessarily agree with that decision or you like Herbie Herbert or whatever, I think what you could say for sure is it's paid dividends, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. How,
yeah.
how can you deny
yeah.
that?
I'm not sure they would have escaped the 70s
No, they wouldn't have.
Yeah,
without
Yeah.
Steve Perry.
No.
I agree. I mean, I think he is the
And Jonathan Cain too, because "Escape" is what blew the door wide open,
Yeah.
and he wrote most of the songs on that album.
right. Even like I
Don't
think-
Stop Believing
I
was all him.
always think about like singers, like and how influential they are. Like when they hit a band, like you got a guy who's been like in another band, and there's this other band that has a bunch of different other singers. They just really never got together.
Alice
And then all of a
Chain's
sudden-
another good example.
Right. Pantera, they get Phil and Selma. Once that happened, the whole thing changed for them. So there's all these bands that like just a singer coming into the band just made the thing happen. Sebastian Bach, Skid Row.
Yep.
Like I remember Skid Row was a band for a while, and they did nothing, and then all of a sudden Sebastian Bach was in the band, and then
Yeah.
it was.
And like
they
I
were
said,
all over
Alice
the
in
place.
Chains, those three
Yeah.
guys couldn't find a singer.
Yeah, Lane
And
Staley.
Lane was in. It was like a place like the Playroom.
Yeah.
Lane was in the room next door and came over and was like, "Hey, you guys sound good." He was like, "You want to be in the band?" Like,
That's why, like,
Don't you just
kudos
wish
to
life
places
was
like
that
the
easy?
I know.
Playroom.
man?
You know, like
Because-
sometimes it works out. You know,
Yeah.
so cool.
what about you, Ade?
I mean, this is going to be very basic, but I do like the new guy.
Arnell? I would go with Arnell.
I
as well.
like Arnell.
Yeah.
I've
you heard
seen
the,
them. I've seen them live twice.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Both
and-
times I saw them was with Arnell.
And it's definitely a nostalgia play.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I was too young to go see Journey
Me
Same.
too,
when
same.
they were hitting in the 80s, but like going to PNC Pavilion, you know, an outdoor concert, and Arnell's giving you the best Steve Perry that you're going to get
That's
today.
the biggest thing, right? Like,
Have you
Good
heard
to hear
the re-recordings? that he
Yeah, I did.
I thought those
Actually,
were great.
I just heard,
I actually thought the production was not that good, but his singing was really good.
I heard Faithfully,
yeah,
and I think it was like on a random Spotify channel I
you
was
gotta
listening
listen to the Stone in Love, dude.
and
Kills it.
like it started playing, and I was like, oh, this sounds a little off.
Yeah.
And then I heard Arnell singing. I was like, oh, this is some new stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they just.
So I
redid
was
it.
wondering, why would they go back and record stuff? Well, it was part of a deal they did with that album, which I think was called Revelation. It's got a yellow cover. Anyway, it was a deal they had with Walmart. Walmart was going to be the exclusive distributor of that album, and they said, "All right, we'll do this deal if you'll re-record X amount, 10 whatever songs with Arnell, and we'll put out the double album." And they were like, "All right." So
wow.
Cool.
Well,
because I was wondering,
yeah.
why would they do that? Like, why would you go back and do
Yeah.
that? Like he did. I mean, they did Stone in Love, Faithfully, Open Arms. I think they might have done Don't Stop Believing. They definitely did Lights. Like
Guess
all
we
the
should-
big ones.
We should probably call up David Coverdale, you know, because it seems like Whitesnake redid a bunch of their old hits. And,
The Purple
you know,
Purple album, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, maybe some of
There's
those.
a lot of Deep Purple stuff. I think it might have been all Deep Purple stuff, was it?
I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
Whitesnake put out the album called the Purple Album.
Oh,
Anyone Whitesnake fans here besides me?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm. I
like
enjoyed.
Whitesnake
We've
songs.
covered them.
Yeah, we have. We did a.
I didn't know they were doing
Is
that.
This Love? Yeah, Is This Love?
Nice.
Yeah, we did it in our own little Hawthornes way.
Cool,
but
cool.
you know what? I think what
I had to.
God, I didn't have a choice. Band members.
He's right.
overruled them.
Truer words are never spoken, man. That was the carrot that was dangled over his head. You know? But no, you know, and what I was referring to, I think, was like there's a few songs that that Whitesnake had done that, and it made me think of it when you were talking about why would somebody go re-record, but they, you know, Here I Go Again and Fool for Your Lovin',
Yeah.
and those were songs that were recorded in earlier iterations of that band.
Right.
Right.
And I think as he got, you know, some of these like Steve Vai, however you pronounce his name. Sorry, Steve. Listening to this, you are still my guitar hero.
He's a guy that never sold his masters and is very rich because of it.
Yeah. There you go. It's
That's
another one.
great
Right?
example.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so, but, you know, when I think Coverdale had said at some point, and I know it's different for Journey, but in his case, you know, he got this super group together. These guys that could just do unbelievable stuff. You know?
Right.
You got
He's
Steve
always
Vai.
been good at that.
You
Yeah.
know what? I mean,
Right.
yeah, exactly. If you got Steve Vai in your band, I mean,
Right. What are you gonna do?
I don't think Vi was in Whitesnake too long though.
No, he did that one album.
One album and
He
one
did,
tour, right?
Yeah, one tour. So I think that was because the Adrian Vandenberg had some kind of wrist injury or something, and so all those songs were written by Adrian and David Coverdale, and so Vi just came in and recorded all those parts. But it's funny because I was able to find. I was wondering if they ever did, any of the B tapes or anything like that. The B rolls existed, and there's this really interesting video. If kind of stuff, I'm kind of a nerd, but you can hear them rehearsing that Slip of the Tongue album.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
And you can hear Adrian playing all those guitar parts like before.
It is before Steve Vai came and recorded them.
Before he had, and they were recording the demo tapes to it.
Right.
And you can hear his tone. You can hear some of those, the way that he was interpreting those guitar parts. Pretty close, but a little bit more raw, in your face, a little bluesier. What's it? Yeah, you can find it. It's. I thought it was like, man, that's kind of cool.
That is cool, man. I love that. I love listening to demos. I know Soundgarden, like just before Chris died, I'm pretty sure they were kind of started releasing all the demos, like all these like studio outtakes stuff. And I love listening to that stuff.
And GNR in June too.
Huh?
GNR in June.
Right, exactly. They just did that too.
Get to hear some of the most raw aspects of how those songs came.
And I love that because like it's hard for me as a musician. I know that in the beginning when you write songs, it's hard to hear your own stuff in the most raw form and go, this is going to be a good song. Like it's really hard to understand that how it becomes as polished as a studio record becomes.
Yeah, I have a lot, especially a lot of the stuff that is on our current album. I have a lot of the audio that, typically, like Mike was saying, we just jam in a room. So I just put my memo app on.
Yeah,
and
me
just
too. That's
hit
exactly
record.
how I do it. That is exactly how I do it.
So when I get in my truck and I plug my phone in, that's the first thing that pops up. And so every now and then, like there's like one of the recordings we did of one of the songs on the record, Keep Pushing.
Yeah.
Like it's just Mike and Chris kind of working through the main
That's
vamp.
so cool.
And it's like when you hear it and it's like,
that's the beginning.
That's where that came from.
Started it right there. Yeah, that's so cool, dude. I love that. I love listening to the bigger artists.
That's a perfect segue too. Let's talk about these guys' album.
It's time for an album review.
Yeah,
oh
absolutely.
man, I was having so much fun talking about it.
No. So we're gonna do the album review on the Hawthornes this week because they have an amazing album out. Self-titled, am I correct on that?
Self-titled.
Yeah, self-titled.
Got it
The
right here.
Hawthornes. Check it out. It's on all the streaming sites and everything like that. So need to check it out.
For
it's
free.
orange. I love the artwork on it. Can you tell us about the artwork at all?
Michael, Ken.
Yes.
So it's interesting. The artwork. So it didn't come out overnight, right?
Right.
So the album was kind of long in the making, so there was a lot of downtime to be thinking through different elements. And when it came time, when we were kind of getting close to finishing up the pre-production and going to mixing, then we were like, okay, what are we going to do for an album cover? So I was at home and I was just thinking through a couple of different ideas, and what was coming to mind for me was sort of this I'm a big Earth, Wind, and Fire fan, right? So this is one of the bands I grew up listening to. My sister was a big fan of theirs, Led Zeppelin, all that good stuff. And I was thinking in my mind some different ideas around those early Earth, Wind, and Fire albums where there was like desert skies, and it was just really interesting and majestic. So I thought it might be kind of neat to have a picture, and it started out as the idea for me was like a woman wearing headphones, and so I brought this mock-up to the guys, and they liked it, and we knew we couldn't use the picture that I brought in,
right.
It would, and I couldn't find out who,
right. But
so
the idea is the
exactly,
inspiration
right. So what we did was we once we got kind of an agreement, I sent it out to my cousin who's a wonderful artist, John Blackburn, and John, he started to work on it. He took it in a little bit of a different direction, which if you're an artist,
sure, that it's always subject to that person's vision.
Absolutely,
right? Absolutely.
And I think once he had an opportunity to hear from us, kind of what we were looking for, and also hear the music, it kind of inspired him to create that album
there you go.
cover.
I was going to say that I did feel like it captured what the music sound is. It looks warm and it looks fun all at the same time, and I feel like that when I listened to it, I was like, that's the album.
And I think it went through a few iterations, and he started when he got it to the point where he was doing the detail in the face, and I think when you look at it, it might be easy to see it as it looks maybe like a female, right? But
it does.
There's a certain
female.
But there's a certain androgynous.
She's got no hair, but but it still seems feminine, and it seems like she's,
and so he did, just this beautiful, and this is hand sketched, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty brilliant when you think about the
Great,
level of
man.
detail that he did on this. But
Yeah.
so he sent that to us, did some things with it. We went back and forth on a couple of the final details, but I think he kind of captured the essence of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
So there's
Thanks for asking.
13 songs on the album.
Yep.
Walk us through a couple of them. What are some of your favorites? I know it's tough to pick because they're yours, but I'm sure you got them. We all got them. We just don't voice it.
I'm growing up kind of singing R&B, Boys to Men vein kind of thing. I'm definitely partial to ballads and things, but I can say, well, what I'll say is my absolute favorite on the record is Dances in the Rain.
Okay, I love that one too.
And it has absolutely nothing to do with me.
Okay.
The rhythm of the song, the whole vibe of the song. I mean, that music was written before I wrote a single word down.
Okay, so it was brought to you as
when I heard, I mean, he might not want it. When I heard the music to it, I was like, man, this sounds like some Toto stuff here.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
Yeah. We talk about Toto
this is
regularly.
real dope. And so when I went into trying to pen lyrics out, I mean, I had Toto just kind of on loop in my brain.
Cool.
And of course, everybody thinks of Africa when they think of Toto. And I was like, Africa,
there's a couple other
rain.
ones, yeah.
Oh, Dances in the Rain kind of thing. And that was just the image that I had as I was writing the song out. And that music completely inspired the lyrics to that song, and I think that it paired up. So it's my absolute favorite.
Are there other ones on the record that that were brought to you like that, and did you feel the same way about those? Like when you heard them, you were just like inspired to write the lyrics, and that was like
After the Dance.
After the Dance, cool. Another great one.
That was actually. I guess in essence, that was kind of an audition song.
Okay. So that was like a song, and then you were like challenged to write it and see what happened.
Yeah, they had the track already there.
That's cool.
And I think it was called Motown.
Remember the working title.
Yeah,
I love working titles for songs.
Because it could be anything. I literally don't try hard to write a working title. I just whatever pops into my head.
There's a Dream Theater in the studio video, and they go over their board where all their working titles is.
Yeah.
And there's one called Nads, which ended up being Dark Eternal Night, which is like one of their best songs.
Crazy. It was called Nads.
It's called Nads.
Side note, I do know the working title for the Beatles Yesterday is Scrambled Eggs.
Scrambled Eggs. That's a good one.
I love little things like that.
But After the Dance, that was another one that when I heard it, like I immediately thought high school dance. Like
it
was
does,
kinda
man.
like
It feels that way, man. It feels smooth, and that emotional moment afterwards. You're hanging out with the person you ended up hanging out with. It's so great, man. I personally like one of my favorite, and it's part of the riff that drive me wild. I just love the lead guitar break over it, and then I also am like in love with the way the lyrics work. Like just it's really cool. And there's a shout out to that song in another song. I think it's What You Gonna Do.
Yeah.
Who's doing the rapping on this record, by the way? Is it multiple people? Is it one guy? Who is it?
It's a great question. So his stage name is Superstition, and it's a friend of mine, Cam Moye. He lives in Atlanta. He's actually from Greenville, North Carolina.
Okay.
And he lived in Charlotte in the late, I hope I get this right, late 90s until about maybe the mid 2000s, late 2000s. And he was pretty popular here. He was a great artist, and I actually did some shows with him when I was playing with another band at the time, Black Rain, and we did some shows together, and that's how I came to know him. And it just a really, really humble guy. And I was telling the guys, when we did our CD release party, we decided to bring everyone who did a guest spot on the album to come play the show with us. And Cam was invited too, and he did come up and he did a wonderful job. It was the first show he did in Charlotte in 3 or 4 years. So
cool.
But was telling the guys when they meet this dude, I mean, when you hear him, he's fierce, right? I mean, he's really very, very talented, and that's only a micro, what is the word?
Cosm.
Microcosm, or whatever the word is I'm looking for. Sorry, I failed linguistics. All right. So, but yeah, he that's just a small sample what he's done.
Sure.
But I was telling the guys when you get a chance to meet him, he's going to be literally the last person in a room of 100 people that you would say would be that guy. I mean, he is such a humble and nice guy.
Yeah, down to earth.
Oh my gosh. I mean, and perhaps to a fault.
Yeah.
I was about to say too down there.
I think there's a lot of that, and I like those people. To me, those are the people that I gravitate towards, and I like I like talking to people and having real conversations. First of all, and there's people who once they get out of this realm where they're like in normal people realm, sometimes they lose that and they can't do it anymore. It's just like they go through the motion.
Yeah. Ade Herbert.
Yeah, right. Ade is the most humble guy ever. I love Ade. That's so funny though. Some other great ones. Unstoppable. I love that because it's and Keep Pushing. Both of those actually are both motivational songs, and I love motivational songs. Me personally, I feel like you work out and
I'm ever the production guy. What was the production process like for this album?
Yeah.
So we recorded the album ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We produced it, and it was actually, I guess, carried over two different studios.
Two different. Yeah.
Yeah. So we originally had a rehearsal place at another facility, and we recorded a lot of the bass tracks there. Okay. And then
bass tracks isn't like the beginning tracks, or bass tracks isn't bass guitar tracks.
Okay, well, both. So so we did bass, drums, and I did a scratch track for the guitar.
Okay, so you're doing the foundation of the tracks. Gotcha.
Foundational tracks, and we wanted to have a live feel for the album because the first album we actually recorded everything was distant. So the drummer would record his parts at home, and then he would send it to me, and Chris would either record the bass over the top of that, and then I would record guitar, or vice versa. But this album we wanted to have more of a live feel, so we put the bass and the drums together in these studios, and we started to record all these foundational tracks. I recorded a scratch guitar part, and because in some of these cases, to me it was kind of like it's sort of like a placeholder, you know. And I know these guys hate to hear that, but the idea for me was when I would get home, I would listen to it a little closer.
Yeah.
And see if there was a way I could refine that guitar part.
Right.
Maybe change it up a little bit to best suit the rhythm of the song and whatever, maybe our day was singing. But so that's how we did that's how we started it. And then we sent it off to John Fiftner in Winston-Salem to do the mix for us. And then of course we sent it once we got the mix done, we sent it to Ty Tabor of King's X fame.
Yeah.
And he did the mastering for us and turned it over. I think he turned it over, the mastering, to us in about 48 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I had reached out to him ahead of time and told him we'd be under a tight schedule, and he really fitted in for us. I couldn't believe it how quick we got it. And he knocked it out of the park, man. I mean,
I think
if
it's a beautiful sounding record. All together, it's congruent. It's like it's beautiful all the way through. I love it.
Thank you.
Lesson learned for me is don't set your CD release date party
till it's done.
Till the
it's
record's
actually
done.
in hand. Yeah, because otherwise then you got a deadline. You just made yourself a hell of a deadline.
Dude, it was coming down to the wire, and we were like, we're still waiting on about 4 tracks to get mixed.
Man, well, I don't know if
That's
CD
stressful.
release party. Did you guys play the CD? Was that part of it?
No,
Or
we
did you guys
did
play
it
a
live,
show?
but
Yep.
we wanted to have some there for purchase. And,
celebrate,
it was it was definitely a celebration thing. But I mean, we picked that date because it was opportunistic for us. We wanted the specific venue.
Yeah, right.
We were kind of working with their timetable and their schedule, and so that was like the only opportunity for us to get in without pushing it out months.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So you guys went with this is what I'm considering for my record as well, is recording the tracks and sending them out to get them mixed. Recording the tracks.
That's probably the best thing to do.
I really think that is, and I mean, LA Maybe is that's what we're considering as well. Is we're working on recording the tracks, getting them down, and then shopping it, just to mixers and see. So, and I think we got some people in mind, obviously.
All right, know who I want. It's just a matter of money.
Exactly. So I think that's a good way to do it. To be honest, I think that's where a smart place to put your money in. To put your money toward.
I think if you're putting, and this is just opinion, but I think if you're putting your money, if you have a certain amount of money and you want to put the biggest amount towards the thing that'll make the biggest difference, I think mixing is that place to do it.
That's what I'm saying.
A really good mixer can take okay recorded tracks and make them sound really good.
Yeah.
this is kind of my first go around with self-producing, self-writing, self-recording a record kind of thing. And so I had no idea what I was involved in it. I was involved in the music industry years ago with the singing group that I was in from high school and stuff. But I didn't know how this process went when you were doing it yourself. And I knew it took a lot.
Yeah.
I just didn't know exactly what it was. But I am definitely grateful for, Mike and Chris, our original drummer, like they all, they've done it before. They've been involved in this process. So I definitely leaned on them.
Yeah.
Whatever they said was the way to do it was the way to do it.
Right.
Because I didn't have an opinion.
This is the way we're going to do it. This is the way we can do it. Right.
And I've heard some other projects that are done in similar fashion, but they didn't go through the steps that we went through to get it done, and you can hear it.
Yeah.
You can hear it. And that's not saying anything, to their projects or anything like that, but when you have lived with songs for so long and then you're the one mixing it, it's going to be different than
that's the exact issue.
I just somebody else.
That is the issue.
Somebody else who's hearing it for the first time.
Yeah, because my plan was to mix our stuff originally, but as we're getting closer to that, I'm like, I don't want to do that.
And the fact that you can give it to somebody who has had success and can make a good mix. Like you can look at their work and you can decide like, hey, is this guy going to do us justice? And I like to judge the interest level. I think that's important too. So, I don't know if you guys shopped it to people or if you just knew who you wanted to send it to. But I think I like the idea of seeing who's interested.
Yeah, we definitely knew we wanted somebody who appreciated the music.
That's huge. That is
and depending on the level of the producer, they won't even take you if they don't like it.
Exactly, right. Yeah.
Some people need the work and they'll take whoever, but some people will not take things they don't want to work on.
We were real fortunate. We actually, one of the first songs we sent to someone more local, and for a variety of reasons it didn't really work out to so I reached out to John, who I'd done some work with before. Yeah. Tipsy Tipsy album.
Yeah.
So,
and that's great too.
And so John just has a tremendous ear. He's a great musician. So I think I don't know that it's important for a producer or an engineer or someone who mixes for you. I don't know that it's important. I think we had this conversation the other day. I don't know that it's important or necessary. Let me use that word, necessary, that they like what you do.
I agree.
But they
respect and appreciate.
They need to have a level of appreciation for it.
Yeah. Right.
And they need to, be.
Well, they need to like it enough to be willing to do their best, not phone it
because,
in.
If they're not bought into it, if there's not some kind of alignment of vision for it, I think that you may not get a product that you spend a lot of money on. It may not be exactly
right.
So we were fortunate. John spent really some significant time, working it out for us.
Yeah. And most mix engineers that just mix get so much stuff coming across their desk, they're not gonna. Necessarily lose their shit over your band or my band or anyone else's
That's a great
band.
point.
They just get so much stuff. They're like, all right, what am I mixing today? Let's do it.
That's a great point too. And so, how do you not get lost in the shuffle and just become that other band that I'm getting a couple $100 for a song or something? But John is a bona fide producer and engineer, and I mean he's a phenomenal artist.
Was there anything that you were surprised when you got back? Did you get anything back that was dramatically different or different in any way that you were like, wow, that's cool, or a different take, or was it?
So I think that's a great question, and I'm going to try to be brief or exercise brevity.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end, but let's finish up on your record because I really want to.
Yeah, so that's probably not an easy way to tackle that one. When we sent John the tracks, we had done a lot of pre-production on it, so there wasn't a whole lot of work for him.
Okay, right. Just kind of blend it all.
Do your EQ thing, do the levels, and put the professional mix on it.
Yeah,
and he did that. He did exactly what we asked him.
That's a really important note. You can't fix a bad song in the mix.
Right.
And it starts way before it.
No doubt.
Any red buttons
man. on. And so what moving forward, and we've already started talking about. The next
project.
Yeah, next project. We I think we're still trying to determine what that's going to look like, but I think we're going to. One of the ideas is to go up there and spend some time with John and let him, kind of produce it,
cool.
help us, co-produce it.
And that'll be different, you'll have a different kind of spin on it before it gets to him, right?
I'll say before we cut out here, there is one thing that he did that I thought was actually it's kind of journey-esque to bring this all the way back around.
Perfect.
But on Seduction,
Yeah.
there's like this last little pseudo yell that I do right before the ending.
Okay. Yeah.
Guitar solo. But the way that we recorded it and the way that I had been doing it live was I would start saying the line, about a half a beat before you started playing.
Uh-huh.
And that's the way we recorded
yeah.
it. And we sent it off to him. And we got it back. He'd moved it right to the beginning of where the guitar solo started.
Pay attention to that. That's
and
cool.
like when he did it, I was like, oh, that works.
Yeah,
that was cool.
I know that feeling. There's stuff that
It's different when you're in a rehearsal room and then when you put it on, put it in Pro Tools and you can see the grid.
Yeah, that's
and you can be like, oh, this might work here.
That's
You
what I
don't
was
think
just
about
gonna
that
say
sitting in the
I brought
room.
songs to
Like,
Dallas that was the same way. Like I had a certain spot I was coming in, and then I think you nudged it, and you were like, "What about right here?" And then you're like, "Yeah, that works better. That's cool."
yeah. Oh, you were talking about the Black Magic.
It could have been that. We did some
You sent
stuff
me-
on that.
you sent me-
Yeah,
He sent me some vocal tracks for a song.
I was
and,
talking about even older than that, but Black
the bridge
Magic,
is in 7/4.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know what his plan was, so I just kind of chopped it and put it where I thought it sounded cool.
Yeah, it worked, man. It was,
ended up
it was
working
pretty much
okay,
right
yeah.
on. Yeah, you didn't really change too much, but it was just a little bit of difference. But yeah, great.
Let me ask you this:
Yeah.
what was there anything when you listened to that Hawthornes album?
Yeah.
Was there something that stuck out to you? I mean, was there any as musician to musician, or even as a listener?
Yeah, there was a lot of things.
Chords.
That stuck out. I mean, yeah, big chords.
For me.
I love jazz progressions. So it's, for me, like to hear that kind of stuff, I'm like, to me, it just sounds like heavenly. There's this weird, not weird, I shouldn't say weird, warm feeling of the whole thing. And that I loved immediately. Ade's voice immediately was tuned into that. Guitar licks.
Yeah,
Drive
for me,
Me Wild
it was
one that
the
stuck out to me
voicings you
immediately.
choose and
Oh, cool.
kind of the more
That's all I do.
funk kind of style kind of thing, like where it's a little more clean
Okay.
and which
And I think that's an interesting observation, right?
Yeah.
Because this isn't the stuff that I was doing
right.
when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I think for better or for worse, I classify myself as a rock and roll guitar player. So I
Same.
grew up, listening to him play.
Yeah, and I can hear that too. And you're
Sure.
even though it's not a rock and roll record.
Yeah.
I hear it.
No,
though. I
can't get rid of it. It's like my southern
But
accent.
it's
I
great,
can't.
though, right? Does that because that adds
I don't know about the
twist,
southern
man.
accent,
Like
but
everybody's got got their part in it.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
I
No.
love it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think the difference in writing music like this, at least from a guitarist's perspective, is, or at least contributing to it, is that now you're talking about something that's greater. The whole is greater. What's the saying?
Whole is greater than some of its parts.
There.
The whole
Dallas to the
is
rescue
greater
for the
than
third time.
There you go.
I think you've used that saying before too.
Repeat.
Yeah. Well,
Mike's not going to be able to talk to anybody without you being around.
Yeah. Well, no, but
We'll discuss hourly rate for that too.
Yeah, there you go. I need it, man. I mean, but it's one of those things where if you're listening to the song and you're really trying to capture the essence of what's going on as a guitar player, there was a lot of back and forth in terms of what kind of tones I wanted to use, and that was part of the idea of going and going home and recording those parts, because I was like, some of this doesn't work. I mean, I was playing with some overdrive on certain things that didn't work when I recorded. It just didn't work.
And that's production. Like that, you're talking about being the producer in that moment of your own music. So,
Absolutely.
So that is what. Yeah, I totally.
That's
it's
hard
like
for
the
some people too.
Yeah, it is.
And,
That's
and
hard.
so like with he mentioned Dances in the Rain, when we were writing that song, the very first part of that, of course, is that little da, 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 and I was playing the electric guitar is how we wrote it. And when I took it home and started recording it like that, I was like, man, I there's something not quite here. So I actually took an acoustic guitar and I played that throughout the whole song, I found some pretty interesting, effects, some reverbs and choruses and delays and stuff, and got this really interesting, I don't know, Tears for Fears type of thing going on it or something. I don't even know what you call it, but and it was another one of those things. Had I just recorded it like in the studio at the time, it would have turned out a bit differently.
Yeah,
So which isn't
going home and thinking about it, and just like you got it closer to what you're in your head was.
Yeah,
what you were
maybe,
hearing,
and that's not to say that it's better or worse.
No. But just more close to what you were imagining, or your inspiration was coming from.
Yeah.
I think
Which is
that
probably the
happens a
biggest
lot.
benefit with doing tracking yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you're going to a studio, you got to lay it down and then it's done.
Yeah.
And
You go
don't
home and
have
listen.
the
You're,
time.
yeah,
Yeah,
you go home
exactly.
and listen to it, and you're like, oh shit, I should
You're
have
paying
done
an
this.
hourly rate for that. You know,
And
it's-
that's we were talking about
Yeah.
that the other day.
Yeah.
That stopwatch is on, man. I mean,
Yeah.
and well, that creates a lot of
And that
pressure.
that
Yes,
changes,
absolutely.
and that changes. And you found this out the
Everything.
other day. That changes how you play.
yeah, it does.
Yes, it does.
Because I do all my guitar recording myself. I've been doing it since I was 14. Like
Well, there you go.
And I
so,
do a lot of demoing
when I go
myself,
down to
so I know
record
that,
guitars, it's the easiest, chillest, no pressure, and I always end up pulling the best performances out of myself that way
Yeah.
because there's no pressure at all.
Yeah.
If I don't get it today, I'll just do it tomorrow. Like
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
I'll go get lunch. I'll come back. I'll just maybe I'll try this part. Like it doesn't matter.
It feels
Like, you know?
leisurely, casual.
And guitars, especially with Kempers and things like that, that's the best way to do it. I
easy,
think.
yeah,
I
so
mean, I'm not saying
consistent.
Kemper's
You
the best
start
way
at
to
any
record
time, you
guitar,
can-
but I'm saying
and
that direct.
You didn't record the
a
Hawthornes
great
record
way.
with the Kemper though, right?
No, I didn't have
Right,
it. I didn't
Didn't
have
have
it
it
when we were doing the track.
Is it all the Bogner? Or is it a bunch of different stuff?
Well, yes. Well, so there's a lot of different
Gotcha.
Like
and I was,
effects and
Like
stuff.
any good
yeah,
album.
I actually recorded. I probably shouldn't go there, should I? I don't want to give away the secrets. Not that they're really secrets. Nobody really cares. You know?
There's a
Was that
lot
good?
of ingredients in Mike's
Okay.
gravy.
Well, I mean, if it works, man, if it works,
well,
go
you know,
for it. That's
well,
the way I say.
I think when I took those things home, I have the software that I use to record guitars.
Right.
It's a little easier to dial in. And when I was like
What are you using to record guitars?
Guitar Rig,
Okay.
Guitar
Yeah.
Rig 5, or I think it was 5.
Guitar Rig's
And
awesome.
For yeah, it is. And
Really good for writing.
well, you know, and it allows you to go back. I mean, if you can, so like when you're making a cake, right? You got one shot to get those ingredients right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this allows you to actually re-season it.
Yeah.
Right.
Just takes your DI and you can put whatever you want on it.
You know,
Reamping
it's-
is an amazing.
It's just it's
This
great.
is even faster than reamping because it's literally just an effect
Right.
that you put on a
Throwing
DI
it on
signal.
top
So you don't have to
right.
reamp or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, man. I mean, I ended up changing tone profiles when we went to final mix. You know, after having a chance to listen to the demos,
Right.
or we
right,
did
all
I mean,
together and everything.
Absolutely.
Right, right.
I don't know how much truth there is to this, but supposedly Def Leppard's is it called Sounds from the Sparkle Lounge? One of those like more recent albums. The one with Tim McGraw, he's on a song
Okay.
with him.
Okay.
That was all recorded with Guitar Rig.
That wouldn't
Huh.
surprise me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? I mean, unless you're.
And supposedly a lot of it was done on the tour bus, like final tracks. It's like, whoa.
there is an
Wow.
enormous. I mean, and it goes towards the idea of why people go to Kemper. There's an enormous amount of control that you have when you go that route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we were playing a show last night, and we were the first band, played the Kemper through the soundboard,
Mhm.
and the sound guy after the show was like, "I didn't have to do anything to it.
Right.
It just was what
Yeah,
it was. You had
it's
everything
there.
dialed in.
It's finished.
exactly.
Yeah.
Said might a couple of things. I might have bumped up the lead a little bit.
Mhm.
The second band, the guy played through a traditional setup, and the band was really good. They had great stage volume, great stage tone.
Okay.
The way that it translated through the soundboard was a little different.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
And so it's hit or miss, and there's a lot of environmental constraints to how well that.
It really
Comes-
is.
Yeah.
It
And we
really is.
were talking about that the other day, Matt.
Yeah,
You were
exactly.
saying, was it Mike's amp that was messed up? The Bogner?
Yeah, the Bogner did have a fuse issue, so
Yeah.
it blew a
Yeah.
fuse, and we're trying to figure out what that is right now.
But we were talking a few episodes back about pros and cons, Kemper
Right.
versus
Yeah.
tube amps.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Matt
tube
gives
amps
me
are
the story of
finicky.
you turning on your amp and it blows
what happened to
immediately.
me when I first got
that's
my
just the
amp?
story of my life.
It happened to me when I first got my amp. Same
And
thing. I
I'm-
got home,
and-
I plugged it in, it blew a fuse immediately.
I have to laugh at
Yeah. Well,
people that love tube amps. I mean, I love them too. We all love them, but it's just like like I don't know. This is way easier. Like
Yeah, totally.
Well-
I'm sold on the Kemper. Trust me, I just can't afford one right now. I got to sell an amp and buy one. Like Mike, that's what you did, right?
Man, I'm looking around at this great studio you have here.
It's-
man.
it's
Let me
cool.
tell you something.
It's cool.
You
I
I told him to
Kemper,
profile
too.
all his amps and
Yeah, I
sell
know,
them and use the
right?
money back.
He wants his Kemper too. He wants his
do.
cake to eat it.
I
The
want
cake
everything.
and eat it, right? What
Oh,
was
yeah.
it? The Beatles song that says, "Cake and eat it."
We've profiled every amp in this room,
Yep.
That is just so
Other
cool.
than the bass amp,
I
we gotta
mean,
do
and my favorite is that one.
and
the
to the
Marshall, like,
listeners, I
GM
don't know how
410.
much you've teed the listeners up to how cool this room is. I mean, there is some killer guitars in here, and one
need
that he
to do
built,
more, I think.
like
It-
this
we didn't even-
Gibson Les
We
Paul
did.
that you
We did
built.
post the red Les
Amazing.
Paul, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
baby.
They
yeah,
know
we
the-
did
they know
post
the
that.
story of
We
the
did
red
post
Les
that.
Paul.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of those things where you're sitting in here and you're like, yeah, these guys are musicians.
I mean, it's the coolest vibe. I mean, you know, we
Yeah.
couldn't be
Thank
more
God.
more happy to come in and sit with
I
you.
always think of it as like I'm going to spend a lot of time in this room. I want it to feel comfortable and as comfortable as I can be. and like a lot of the stuff's from my house. Like this is stuff that like and my friends have made. Like some of the stuff my friends fabricated and stuff like that. So it feels comfortable to me.
Like this weird Pink Floyd acid trip thing.
Yeah, the
I've been
eyeball.
staring at it.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool one, and it's funny because he made that. My friend made that without knowing what it was. And I use it for everything. I put my lyrics on those 2 bars right there, my cup holder, my picks, I everything. I use it for everything.
It's a very functional piece, which you would not know from looking at it.
Exactly.
It is a wonderful setup.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, guys,
Yeah, we
great.
I
Really,
think this is shaped up to be probably the longest and one of the best.
Yeah, and I feel
episodes,
like full too. Like I feel like we got a lot in. It was cool, man.
Thank you guys for having us. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm so glad we
we've
had you on.
definitely checked out some of the other folks that you've spoken to, and to be
tricked into
included
talking
in
to
that
us.
mix is pretty cool.
Dude, hell yeah.
We're honored, man.
I hope
Humbled.
I hope all our listeners check out your music because I think you guys will all be blown away at how deep and how real and how complex. I don't know how to like explain it better than I have already. Like it's just great music, and check it out, everybody.
And
definitely.
you find out a little bit more if any of your listeners are interested. www.thehawthornesmusic.com, and they can access any of our social media.
You guys use
sites.
Bandzoogle?
I do know that that's an ad that you have.
They're our sponsor.
They're our sponsor.
I guess we'll be using them now.
Check it out.
great.
At least check it out. But yeah, everybody check them out. Hawthornesmusic.com.
That's great.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you so
Are there
much.
alternate ways to spell Hawthornes, or is it just the one way?
It's
There's an E.
Yeah,
There's
remember
an
that
E.
E.
Yes,
Remember that E at the end.
I don't want people to-
the S.
Yeah.
Also,
I feel like that's the right way to spell it. I think it's a tree, right?
Well, it's a lot of things, but I think a tree perhaps is one, and there's also
Thought a hawthorn.
the
Maybe
thing in
I could be
England or
totally
something.
wrong, by
There's
the
a
way.
hawthorn.
there's a folk band in like Birmingham, England called the Hawthornes.
Really? Is it spelled the same exact way?
Same way.
Oh, wow.
We are not them.
Not them.
Okay.
Check out the orange cover with the bald.
Oh yeah.
feminine,
After all the talk about the
person
artwork,
listening.
like you'll definitely know.
So just check out the big orange cover. And
I think it may help. You guys may be happy to know. I think you were the first thing that came out when I searched, though.
Cool.
Yeah, me
Sweet.
too.
On Apple
Same,
Music, at least.
Same.
That is awesome.
So guys, check them out. I guess that's it.
Yeah, man.
Hey, thanks guys for having us. It's
See you
great
guys.
time.
See you guys
really.
Hell yeah.
Emotions well up in her body from being weary and alone. Her chiseled edges showing signs of weakness when beaten stone. She thinks back to a softer time when dreaming wasn't very hard. Simple joys of make-believe could take the sting from all the scars. Every day she wakes a little colder to the world outside her door. The broken windows of her past only remind her what the future has in store. Longs to shut her eyes each night and hide from all her daily woes. She's built the world inside her nighttime, where only she can go. She lifts her head up with yearning eyes. She wills the sky to open, and then she dances in the rain again. Oh, dances in the rain again. Oh, the little girl inside her cries. cries out, don't you forget about me here. The plans we made to climb those mountains, no, I won't let them disappear, no. She stills herself with self-defiance and meets her challenges, aggressions. Too strong to let exhaustion set in. Her mind set on progression. The road is winding and her legs are sore. She fights to drown the thought that she can't take it anymore. But through her hardness, deep inside her mind, she lets her guard down to enjoy the time she dances in the rain again. Oh, dances in the rain again. Oh, rain again. Oh, dances in the rain again. Oh, dances in the rain again. Oh, dances in the rain again. Oh, rain again. Oh, dances in the rain again. Oh,
Hey guys! First of all, thank you so much for listening. If you could please take a quick moment to subscribe on iTunes and leave a rating and review. Your feedback seriously is really important and it helps us keep the show alive.
Check out musicianstalkshow.com to sign up for our mailing list. If you do, we're going to send you our main theme song and a few other surprises. Plus, you'll always be the first to know what episodes are coming up.
If you want to help support the show so we can keep putting out the highest quality content possible, please follow the Support the Show link at our website and consider donating to our Patreon page.
Lastly, if you have an idea for a guest or a question you want to discuss, contact us through any of the contact forms on our website, and we'll do everything we can to make it happen.
Whew, all right, that was a lot, but we got through it. Thanks again, guys, and we will see you soon.